Hi everybody, Dion Lyle for Cherry25, your host for Fintech-5. I'm going to talk about neobanks versus legacy banks. So, what prompted this? Well, Financial Times Alphaville says fintech users can't get enough traditional banks. TechCrunch says 2020 is a challenging year. EFT Trends says fintech M&A is coming. By the way, read Megan Johnson's Medium on her attempt to sign up for an N26 account. Really interesting insights. Let's go into neobanks. I'm not here to praise or bury them. I think they have a lot of pros and cons. So they've raised the UX bar for all banks. They've excited people about banking again, which have been in the industry I love. They can, but haven't yet redefined banking. They have mostly great marketing, and the people I know in neobanks are great. They really are awesome people. I'm skeptical of neobanks. There's too many of them. They're mostly undifferentiated. When you look at the chart on the right, Neobanks, SoFi, N26, Monzo, Revolut, Chime, I don't know why I would pick one over the other. I really don't. Their business models, not much returns yet. They have too much funding. Yes, I said too much funding. Why? They're not making the hard decisions. When you have too much funding in a startup, you tend not to do the really hard cutoffs for roadmap or market expansions. Over-relying on sign-up numbers, not actual active engaged members. Ron Shevlin, the best, he does a great job talking about that. Now look at this on the right. Citibank's market cap is $170 billion, or 6 times all the neobanks on that chart, right? Banks aren't dead yet. So I'm not here to praise or bury legacy banks. They're trustworthy. I know who Wells Fargo Bank is, and I stand by this statement. Legacy banks have millions of customers. Some are actually satisfied. They work, they're reliable, predictable, almost always on, always available, and they've innovated a ton, just not lately. So why am I skeptical of legacy banks? Well, here in the USA, we have just way too many. And again, they're undifferentiated, right? Why would you pick one over another? They have a huge technical debt coming due any day now. Some could argue it's past due. And they have too few technical resources to pay off that debt. Too many employees overall. And the other thing is they're structured, they're siloed. They're almost begging to avoid innovation the way they're structured. It's horrible. But let me counter my own points here for a moment. Citibank, look at that chart. Net income, $4.8 billion. Revenues, $18 billion. And by the way, Citi's not even the best. B of A, JP Morgan Chase, and probably Capital One outperform Citibank. So legacy banks aren't dead yet. So how about this legacy spin out or Intrapreneur? Hey, we're a big legacy bank. Let's just do a digital bank with a new brand and all that. Well, here's the thing. Could be best of both worlds, could be worst of both worlds. I've seen both. So it depends. Do you get true freedom from corporate, separate G&A ops, report only to the CEO of the bank, funding per year, not quarter, branding freedom, and this is key, low percentage of team from the original corporate. Also, do you get a blank sheet of paper? Can you build from the ground up, or are you stuck with half and half? So why do you even bother this? Learnings, new business lines, and speed. Let's look at my own bank accounts. I have Cap One. I got it as an account years ago from ING Direct, and they sold it, and here I am. So basically, what's the value add? It's a good interface. I like it, and inertia. Same with my savings. E-Trade, well, that was actually my Cap One, also ING Direct Trading. Again, inertia, good interface. TIA-CREF, I got 529 college funds for California. TIA-CREF was the one. Now I think they're just called TIA. Acorn Stash, I literally tested something and never got rid of it. I have a few hundred in each of those. Fidelity, previous 401ks, American Century. Chase, Citi, Discover, and Apple. I have all these cards and you can read there why. But basically I did that to separate out my expenses by bucket. And that's the thing. And again, Shevlin does a great job talking about this. It's about buckets of money. So my pet peeves, UK Euro neobanks coming into the US market acting like, oh, it's no different. It's completely different. Please do some research. VC's funding neobanks without knowing banking. Not always true, but enough that it bothers me. How about neobanks thinking banks have not digitized at all? They tend to compare themselves to the 1980 version of their parents' bank instead of the actual banks of today. And then the other thing, neobanks articles all talk about funding. Stop with the funding. I don't care. By the way, momentum begins, funding gets easier. Theranos? Okay, my conclusion. Neobanks and legacy banks are both good, neither's great. There's a culling of the herd coming for neobanks. Neobanks and legacy banks need to choose a lane, focus on a vertical or other specialty. Plenty of thought leaders have written about that better than I could. Silicon Valley Bank, by the way, is a prime example of that. Some neobanks are going to get acquired to be the digital bank of a legacy bank. Oddly and hypocritically, it's not going to end well for either one, but it's probably my favorite option because it gets the bank, the talent and tech, and the neobank gets the resources and customers. Overall, neobanks, legacy banks, bank customers win. There's more choice, UX has gotten better, everything's moving forward. It's a good time to be in banks. Thank you for listening. I look forward to your comments.